Hello and welcome to my diaspora journey. I am your host, Sonia. Thank you so much for joining me again. On this episode, I've got interesting guest. I always call my guest interesting. And I think I'll let her introduce herself. She'll be able to do justice to that. So thank you so much, Sonia, for joining me. And if you don't mind, if you could kindly introduce yourself.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're listening, wherever you are in the world right now. Hello, my diaspora journey listeners and family. My name is Sonia Joy. I'm an MC, so I MC events, weddings. I'm a host, I'm a speaker, and I've also put that I'm a creative because I'm sort of all round creative. So that's my on the side job. But by day, I am a nurse. I'm a qualified nurse health professional. And I'm very glad to be here today. I'm a little bit nervous, so hopefully, hopefully, you will have good value content this morning, this afternoon, this evening as you listen. Thank you very much, Sonia, coach, for inviting me today.
All right. Thank you very much, Sonia. You're a woman that wears so many hats. Thank you so much for honoring my invitation. So,
Thank
on
you.
this episode, we're just carrying on promoting mental health and emotional well being through coaching and counseling.
Mhm.
This episode is about breaking through, unveiling the hidden barriers to counseling in Black communities. I've done so many research on this, and what I can find out is a recurring theme of Black people not wanting to go to counseling or coaching, especially counseling, is almost like a taboo. So today we
Hmm.
are going to be discussing it in detail, and hopefully, this will resonate with you, and you'll be able to also make your contribution in the comment section. So the first thing I'm going to ask you, Sonia, is the mental health issues is not only to certain race. Mental health issues has no respect for any race. It can come upon anybody, and it doesn't have any respect for any gender, age, or anything. So
Absolutely.
now, I haven't said that. Um, do you think there's mental health issues, as in there's an increase in it in the Black community?
So first of all, when we say mental health, let's be very clear what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So I know, especially in the Black community, when you mention mental health, people will say, "Oh, I'm not crazy," I'm not mental. I'm okay. I'm okay. But when we're talking about mental health, we're talking about everything that's to do with your uh, mental processing, how you think, how you behave, how you act, and so on and so forth. And actually, your mind or mentally also affects your body.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a Christian, and one of the things that comes to me is, the Bible says, as you think, so you are. Or if everybody knows that quote, as a man thinks in his
Think
heart,
so easy. Yes.
so is he. So that's what we're talking about today. What are you thinking about yourself? What thoughts come to you in terms of your environment? What do you think about your lifestyle? What do you do about those thoughts? So that's one small fraction of what we're going to be talking about today. Um, in terms of the Black community, there are figures that have come out to say that there is an increasing or alarming rate of mental health issues within the Black community. Um, and I know that we're going to delve so much deeper into that, so I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I think
Mm-hmm.
some people may be shocked to hear that actually there are
Mm-hmm.
alarming rates of an increase in mental health issues within the Black community. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for taking our time to throw more light on the word mental health itself, because this series has been like ruling. I think this is going to be the third episode on that. And it's always great to throw more insight on it, just to rejiggle our memory. And just in case you've not seen the other episode,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we can't say when you said it's on the increase, it might be alarming. I think I agree with that. A lot of people might think, really? Are you sure it's been alarming? If you don't believe us, go and do your research and you'll be absolutely surprised that it is growing. However, it is something that is not reported often. So
Mm,
as a result of that, and it's also an area that people research by themselves. So as a result of that, you might be oblivious of how much it is impacting people.
mm,
So having said this, mental health is not just to certain race because as long as you think, like you said, as long as you have thoughts and it leads to you have emotions, you have
yeah.
feelings, and you take actions, that means you have mental health. However, we are focusing on the issues and the challenges today. So please, that is very, very important that we get this, that
Mm.
we are focusing on the challenges and the issues around mental health. Okay. So, what are the possible reasons that you think maybe mental health is increasing in the Black community? Mental
Uh,
health issues.
Um, I think, especially in the West, I would say one of the reasons is a lack of, there's a barrier in terms of the cultural understanding of, when I say we, I use that word loosely because not all Black people or people of color, are born outside the West or the United Kingdom. But I think, especially for those who are born outside and maybe they're first or second generation immigrants, or their parents were the first generation and they were born here, sometimes it can be a disconnect
Mm-hmm.
between the expectation of the culture that you were born into
Mm-hmm.
and the expectation of the culture that you now find yourself in.
Right.
And sometimes that disconnect is very difficult to be able to verbalize
Mm-hmm.
and quantify.
Right.
So, for example, now I'll give an example. Maybe the expectation of, say, a young person in a Black community, say in Africa, you're expected to behave a certain way. You're expected to
Mm-hmm.
know or do or be silent in certain things. Whereas in the West, in the UK, in the United Kingdom, the culture for young people is to be outspoken, to voice their opinions, to have their own mind, and things like that. So, if you now grow up in a household whereby your parents adopt that culture of their native land, and then you are born into this culture of the United Kingdom where it's okay to speak out, it's okay to be outspoken, there can become a bit of a clash. That's one.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, there's a lack of, I would say, distrust. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of our people, we distrust healthcare professionals, we distrust the system.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's because of a lot of trauma that has been suffered. So some young people, maybe they came here in their teenagers or they came here for university and they went out to work. And in the
Mm-hmm.
workplace, they weren't treated very well. Even in school, you weren't treated well, either because you had an accent or, I remember in my time, there was this word called JJC. I don't know if it's
Mm-hmm.
still in vogue
Johnny
now.
just come.
Johnny
Johnny
Just
just come.
Stop. Yeah. So, we even had like fellow Black people making fun of us, maybe those that are not from Nigeria. I'm not going to mention the names of those countries, so it's not like I'm picking on them. But for those who weren't Nigerians or even those who weren't Africans, like, oh, JJC, did you come by the boat? Did you come by the boat? You monkey,
Mm.
ooh, kind of thing. So, again, it's that kind of a what's it called, a distrust, a different culture, a different understanding, feeling kind of alien, feeling isolated. And also the British have this thing where they say a stiff upper lip. So stiff upper lip is you get on with it, you don't complain, you do as you're very stoic. That's the like traditional British culture, stiff upper lip. However, Africans have this thing whereby you don't speak about the things that you're going through,
Mm.
you don't mention it. You have to be very strong. And there's this rhetoric going on in social media and in the world that, a strong Black woman, a strong Black man, so with that, you feel like you can't speak up. You feel like if you do, you're going to be seen as weak
Mm.
as well. I'll tell one story. Sorry, it's a bit of a long response, but I'll tell a story. So in my former workplace, I was
Yeah.
going through some things at work, and it was a very emotional situation, and I didn't know what to do. I went into the bathroom, into the toilet, and I just broke down and cried. I was like, let me just cry. Let me just cry. I broke down and cried, and I came out. And as I was coming out, there was somebody there, and this person's from Africa, and they were like, "Have you been crying?" And I was like, "Yes, I just needed to just let it out. I'm fine now." And they're like, "No, no, 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 never do that. Never let them see you cry. Never let them see you weak. No, 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 no. Otherwise, they would have won." And I just thought, interesting. But that's what a lot of us carry with us or through society. So all those things can compound. If you don't have somebody you can trust, don't have somebody you can talk to, you carry this weight around with you of being different, being an immigrant, not being able to speak up. You have to be strong, and all those things can weigh down and affect your mental health.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
then the last thing is also genetic disposition.
Mm-hmm.
Genetic disposition is also a an underlying factor. So
Mm-hmm.
amongst the Black community, men and boys, especially from Black African Caribbean communities, are more susceptible to schizophrenia,
Mm-hmm.
and some of these mental health issues than say other cultures. Um, and if it's in the family, it's more likely to. That's what studies say. That's what the science says.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love the fact that you've taken time to share um relatable experiences. And I'm sure a lot of people see crying as a weakness. But it's not. It's
Mm,
actually a strength. You yielding to the fact that you want to show how you really feel, rather internalize everything and express the way you feel.
mm,
Is that the battle won? Because you're washing it off. You are not allowing it to stay in. People do not know that our emotions, when you bottle it up, can often lead to disease, which can then show up as other diseases in the body. If
mm,
you know, like there's a book they call The Body Keeps the Score. If you are there, go and read it. Deadly Emotions is another book again
mm,
that I think is good to read. When you read these books, you will realize that there are some diseases that people manifest, but all of this, the onset, the foundation is as a result of unexpressed emotions that you
mm,
keep in your body and is burning so hard you couldn't show it because of the stigma.
mm,
She's mentioned genetic disposition. Of course, any race can be exposed to that, any race at all. And then immigration challenges of people going through things you're not able to express this because to even start with, a lot of people talk about, oh, we've immigrated. So you think for a better life, for a better opportunity. So as a result of that child would not want to go home and then express to the parents that I'm being bullied or I'm being ridiculed in school
mm,
because you don't want your parents to feel like you are ungrateful. You don't want your parents to think that you are not showing gratitude to them. You are complaining. Perhaps we should have left you back home. You don't want them to think that. So at the end of the day, you have nobody to confide in, like you said. You just chin it up, like you said, the upper lips, as in you tough it up, like they expect you to do. Then there's another challenge of you also mentioned I'm not quite sure the first one you mentioned, but there are other things like the stigma. You and I know that the
yeah.
African community they see mental health as raving mad, as in you are mad. And when you're mad, there's a stigma that will be attached to that family in a lot of things, in doing business with that person, in getting married to that family, that it can come back and haunt you. And there are some experiences that people go through as an African. For example, when a girl is raped, it's almost like a taboo. It's almost like you're blamed for it. You can't say that. So there
Mm,
are some, you mentioned trauma as well. There are various traumatic experiences in the Western world that you can easily just talk about. But in the African setting, in the Black community, you cannot be bold enough to be able to say that. First, they will not believe you. First, they want to preserve, oh, the cultural side. We talk about the cultural
Yeah.
part of it as well. And that is part of it. When we open this up, the part of it is that a girl is being raped. You're thinking is the way you dress. Oh, shush, let's keep it in the family. You
Mm.
can't even say it out. You know the
Let's
torture
not
that person
embarrass
is.
ourselves. Yeah.
That's right. Shame culture.
Mm.
You don't want to be shamed. That is there as well. We forget that instead of the culture, we need to preserve the human being. So this cultural thing, when we start unpicking it, there are loads of things a woman just put to bed and she is not understanding due to her hormones. She is not connecting the stress. She's
Mm.
not connecting well with the baby and she's having postnatal depression. Nobody wants to talk about it. It's like, a child is a joy. Oh. You should just get on with it and feel the child. Nobody wants to listen. Someone told me that um, her family did not believe that she was burned out. She's not even depressed yet. She was really burned out, physically, mentally, emotionally. She was drained, right? But nobody was believing her. Imagine that frustration. Imagine the overwhelm. The people that are supposed to understand you, people that are supposed to be with you and support you, they are not supporting you the way you want.
Yeah.
I once had a girl in my counseling room. She said, my mother gives me everything but what I need.
Wow.
Did you hear that? My mother gives me everything but what I need.
It's funny you say that because I actually wrote a short film. I haven't put it to I haven't filmed it yet, so I'm not going to reveal too much on the
Mhm.
storyline. But I actually wrote a short film that it's about um, a woman and her mother and therapy.
Hmm,
Yeah,
that should be very interesting.
yeah. And
Very interesting.
one thing that I was reminded of, another reason is also generational trauma.
Mhm,
So not just the trauma of immigration, not just the trauma of being in a different country, or but also generational trauma, because you can't give what you don't have.
absolutely.
You can't pour from an empty cup. So, if your parents, when I'm saying your, I'm saying our parents, or our generation before us, didn't have that sort of understanding about mental health, how to look after their mental health, that it's okay to talk about it. It's
Mhm,
okay to every once in a while to say, you know what, I'm not strong, I need help.
mhm,
They didn't go through that. If they weren't given the space for that and also shown that it's okay, unless they have a growth mindset
mhm.
and they have a different mentality on purpose, they're going to pass on what they know.
Yes.
Meaning, in other words, they're not going to have time for a daughter or a son who they see as, oh, you're just being emotional. Can you just, please just get yourself together? You have
Mhm,
work to do. There's money to be made. What was all this? I raised you to be better than this. Come on,
mhm,
son, toughen up, toughen up. It's a tough world out there. If you don't, they will just eat you alive because that's what they've got as well.
mm.
So sometimes that's another reason.
Absolutely. I love that one. Um, I did a course recently for people that are traumatic with a mentor of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And while I was delivering that course to the audience, I was just blown away with the amount of traumas that people are going through that
Yeah,
is swept under the carpet.
yeah.
Unresolved and trauma. When anything similar, there's something about first time experience. You think it's gone, but your body doesn't forget. It keeps
Mm-hmm.
it. And then when anything similar to that happen again, it had to wait. So if you reacted at a one level the first time, when it happened again, you will now react at a level two. And
Mm.
when that happened again, you've not addressed it, you react at level three. This is the reason you see some people, the way they react is not in alliance with what happened.
Mm.
And you'll be wondering, why did you overreact?
Yeah.
Maybe someone just rub against them and said, get off, don't touch me. You're like, I'm sorry, I just brushed past you. It's possible when that person was being raped.
Mm.
That is what happened. It is possible that's the part maybe when she's been belittled, berated. Get out, you will never amount to anything. As a result, she becomes sensitive to touch on that side of her body. And someone might just brush past her. And she remembers, she goes, leave me, get off me. You're like, I'm sorry, I just brushed past you. And you
Mm.
start wondering, what was that all about? It's not in alliance. So generational trauma is a massive one that you've just talked about. We're talking about people having miscarriages. The way some African people talk about miscarriage, it's like it's a normal occurrence. Do you know that can be mentally traumatic?
The lasting
People,
effects of it.
yeah,
Hmm.
people talk about it. And when some people talk about it too much, they're expressing themselves like, "Ah, it's okay now. It's just this thing you had now. It's just one miscarriage. Why are you so temperamental about it? It's not just. It is deep. Then what about the husband that was looking after the wife, disenfranchised grief?
Hmm.
The man is not even allowed to grieve because he's focused on looking after the wife. But nobody will even ask the man as the wife is going through that, how are you? Because apparently you're not the one carrying the child. So please, if you are listening to this today, you've been through any of these things that we're talking about, pay attention and seek peace,
Hmm.
seek therapy. If you want any of the services, I don't have to be your therapist. Find any therapist that you trust, that is trained to help you. It
Hmm.
is so important. When trauma upon trauma upon trauma is happening, there is no way that person will not feel it at certain point in their life. It is quite deep. All of these things we talk about, academic pressure is another one, Sonia,
Hmm.
where people, your expectation is not, your child is not even in that gap, but you want them to be A stars. How is that possible when that child is just ordinarily a C student
Hmm.
comfortably? And if you help them, they can probably go to C plus or maybe B. But you're trying to push them to A. That's torture. That is torture. Oh, my friend's child is a doctor. My friend's child is a lawyer. And you want to go and do this? How dare you?
I think we've all had that. We've all heard that at some point, in our lives. Yeah, parents pass on their trauma as well, which can also affect, mental health of their children. For example, it could be, oh, why can't you be more like Tola? Tola maybe is the older sister. Why can't you be more like Samuel? Why can't you be more like this? Why can't you be more like that? Or, have you seen brother Chigoze's son? He's a doctor, upstanding in the city, making money and sending, money to his family, £300 a month. Whereas you, what are you doing? Like our parents are supposed to be a safe space, safe landing space. But if all they're saying to their kids is that comparison, then that door has been shut,
Yes.
and that trauma begins to build. It's like a wound. When you first have a cut, if you leave it alone and you give it the right treatment, it will heal nicely. But then before it heals, if you cut it again, it will have you know, another layer of skin that's growing. If you cut it again, cut it. The more you keep opening an old wound or adding wound to that existing wound, is something called, well, I'll say is calcification. I'm sure there's another word for it, where that place becomes so thick. Okay, if I think
Is
about,
that Lord? Is that Lord?
yeah, I was just gonna say, so for Black people, before you go for surgery, if you've already had, say for me, okay, let me use example of childbirth, pregnancy. A Black woman wants to go for another C-section. The doctors, the health professionals will have to do a lot of, background study, go into your medical records, look at the wound, and advise if it's a good idea or not. Because Black
Mhm.
people, we bruise more easily, and our wounds sometimes take longer to heal. So if there was a cut there before and the health professional was not aware, the doctor was not aware, and they went in and did another cut, sometimes that's forms something called keloids,
Mm,
which isn't very good. So the healing process takes longer, and you end up
mm,
with a bigger scar than you
mm.
would, ordinarily. So if you think about that, that's like how a trauma wound can be, or mental health wound that's inflicted by, say, a loved one that should know better. Keep going, on and about this issue,
Yeah.
reopening a wound, you
Yeah.
end up with bigger scars, and you end
Yes.
up with adults who have bigger scars. And the issue may not come out now. Sometimes it will come out when you have children. It
Yes.
will come out when you get into a relationship. It'll come out when you're married. Some people are shocked that when they're in a relationship, everything's great, it's fantastic. Oh, we love each other. Roses, we're skipping through the daisies, as the English will say. And then you get married, and then you're going through some stuff, and you're like, whoa, I didn't see this coming, because marriage relationships tend to kind of go into those areas that
Yes.
are hidden from sight.
Absolutely. I like the fact that you talk about you describe mental health like that wound. I like it because people don't see mental health. This
Mm,
is one of the reasons it is being trivialized. You are being melodramatic. You want attention. You
mm,
are too weak. You want to throw a pity party because they can't see the wound. If someone has a broken leg and is shouting, "Ha, my leg," and you check the leg is swollen, you wouldn't say you're throwing a pity party. If someone have a big cut on their hand, is gushing out blood,
mm,
you wouldn't say, "Keep quiet. You're too dramatic." You will rush them to the hospital.
absolutely.
But mental health, you can't see.
Mm,
This is the reason it's been trivialized. If you're out there, you've been through any traumatic situation, trauma, like we've discussed, trauma, i.e., marital pressure, you're of certain age, everybody's telling you to get married, 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 married. And then you get into a relationship, even though the person is being, you can see the red lights. You
mm,
know, you can't stop because you just want to get married. And then you end up getting into that marriage and you have a narcissistic partner, either female or male,
mm,
your life is going to be in turmoil. If you are in pursuit of happiness, where people think happiness is success is a chronological order. You go to school, when you finish, you get a job. When you get a job, you get a mortgage. When you get a mortgage, you get married. When you get married, you have children. We have children. You start doing the school runs, and it carries on and on and on. Unfortunately, success is not in chronological order. If you don't define your happiness and you are using the model that they give to us in the world, your mental health, your emotional well-being is going to be challenged.
mm,
If you are one of those that are grieving and you did not process it, people trivialize grief and it is painful. You don't process it. Someone passed. You don't process it. You just carry on. That is traumatic.
mm,
It is so traumatic. When my dad died, before now, I was like, oh, yeah, someone would die. Yeah, we know that. But there are some that when my dad died, I had to go for a group therapy and it was so liberating. So
mm,
please, if you are listening to this, you've gone through any of the areas we've touched, and as you are talking, you are feeling that pain, you are becoming anxious, or you have any of these signs where, like Sonia said, relationship trauma as a way of showing up in relationship because you dig deeper
yeah.
and you know that you are greeting your partner the way you are parenting from fear because of the trauma you've passed through and you are not transferring it. Please seek help. It is so important. You wouldn't leave a cut untended to and you just leave it bleeding. You wouldn't do that to yourself. So why would you leave your heart
Mm,
bleeding without treating it? If you've been through divorce and your children, they've seen things, even you've seen things. The separation is not a healing. You want to go on a journey to go and process everything, the unforgiveness, the betrayal, the hurt, whatever it is that has cost you. You need to process this. I'm covering all these areas because I know that you and I know as Africans, all these things are like normal. Like, it's okay. We'll
It's
move
what it is.
on
Yeah.
to the next one. But is it what it is? What do you think, Sonia? Is it what it is?
No, it's not what it is. When you were talking, I was thinking of, I was reminded that those examples that you've mentioned are very specific points in people's lives, also known as a transitional point.
Yes.
So you're transitioning from one type of life to another type of life.
Hmm.
So when you're in a relationship, you get married, that's a transition from being
Yes.
single to being married. When you're grieving, that's a transition from, say, for example, your parents were alive, or you have one last, living parent, and all of a sudden that parent passes away. You've now transitioned to being an orphan. When you are pregnant, then you have a child. You've transitioned from being pregnant to now having a child. So those
Mhm.
transitional points are very, very important to take note of. Even jack buying,
Yes.
leaving your home country, what you know, what you understand, to go to greener pastures. That's a point of transition.
Yes.
These points of transition, also known as points of trauma,
Hmm.
tend to open gateways. They tend to open portals. If you're a
Yes.
spiritual person, I can't help but mention my faith, but they open portals. They open gateways.
Hmm.
A traumatic experience brings about pain.
Yes.
Pain brings about transition from one state of being to the other, and it
Absolutely.
opens a portal, it opens a gateway. If you don't have the right supports, you don't have the right tools. It may not necessarily be that at that moment in time you needed to go for counseling. So you're looking for who to counsel you, but in terms of the tools that you need, um, how to overcome certain thoughts, what you think about yourself. What do you do when you get into certain situations where you start doubting and you're a bit shaky? What tools have you in your arsenal or in your kit bag, in your emergency bag? So, like, for
Yeah.
example, um, for a pregnant woman who's about to give birth, she will have in her emergency bag. If anything was to happen, all different things, toothbrush, toothpaste, nightwear, pads, all those things, so that waters are broken, grab the bag, go to the emergency room. That's your emergency kit. So what things have you over time collected in your emergency kit that will help you in those moments? If you don't, that pain can linger on, and that pain tends to latch onto other things. When people are in pain, they think about things they wouldn't normally think about. When
Yes.
people are in pain, it opens the way to vulnerability. When people are in pain, it shuts down all the other nerves. All
Yes.
your brain is thinking about is pain, 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 pain. And if it's not dealt with properly, that pain can lead to, areas whereby you're thinking negatively about the situation or
Mm-hmm.
about yourself, and so on and so forth. So a traumatic experience is not just um, for those that have gone through like physical trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Traumatic experience can be anything that causes you pain. A traumatic
Yes.
experience can be anything that destabilizes who you are as an individual. And because they open gateways and they open portals, if you don't have the right tools, that then leads, down to the negative side of things. A woman that's just given birth and is now going through post like traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. Now, for everybody on the outside, is like, oh, this is a blessing. You've been praying for this child. You've been
Mm.
praying for this baby. You've wanted a baby. Okay, even if they haven't waited a long time, but it can be like, well, there are other people who want a child, and you've been blessed with a child. What's wrong with you? Get over it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm.
what they don't know is that that's not what the mother wants to feel. But she's been through such a traumatic childbirth. Is really a thin line between life or death.
Absolutely.
It's a thin line between life or death. And some women go to brink of death and come back.
That's
And
right.
that changes them. That changes them. So if they don't have the right support and the right space for them to know that how they're feeling, they have the right support, they have things in place, they have somebody to talk to, it can be seen as, this woman is just wicked. There's some, just get over it. And that get over it makes it even worse.
That's right.
Yeah, I'll stop there because I think I've been going on for a bit.
No, no, no. Those are great points that you made. I like the fact you talk about the portals that when you go through traumatic experiences, you open supporters, and also that include even your body and
Mm,
the hormones. When your body go through trauma, there's a part of your brain, the amygdala, that so you have the hippocampus that
mm,
help you with your reasoning and everything. You have the parts that help you with your rational thinking. But when you're always in a state of anxiety, you're always fearful, you're worried. Is either you flee, you fight, or
mhm,
you freeze, or you flop. So that part of your brain is the amygdala. And when that part is triggered very, very often, you've not processed it, and you are really anxious,
mm,
that could release different things in your body. There's an hormone they call opiates
mm,
that will shut down your system. You know what? Human beings do not just die easily like that. Your body is made to fight for you.
mm,
So when those hormones are released in your body will shut down. It will shut down all those things to help you preserve yourself so that your body do not go through this pain too much. It's just like you do something happy and your body releases your hormones, releases dopamine, and you're really, really happy. But in this type, is the opposite that is going to release. Imagine your body being in that constant state where nobody believes you. You see this
mm.
baby, you are shaking because you are remembering the trauma you went through. You see this person that remind you of the trauma you've gone through, or they
Yeah.
say someone passed. For example, now the Wigwe family that are grieving. I don't know them personally, but I'm not going to lie to you that it did not remind me of the trauma in terms of grief that I've been
Mm,
through,
mm,
and I can only just imagine what the family are going through.
mm,
I haven't been through it myself, but this time times three. You see the way it is. Even
mm,
the secondary ones, even the vicarious ones, the vicarious trauma, whereby as a counselor, people are telling you about their ever stuff. And sometimes you begin to absorb it.
experiencing through them. Yeah.
That's exactly that's vicarious trauma.
Mm,
And even at this is why we go for supervision to offload ourselves so that
mm,
you don't carry so much and start walking around with these luggages. So those secondary trauma of you watching this funeral going on online is something. Not to talk of you as a person, your own, they've not resolved it. And then you are chatting with everything we see online. So
mm.
it's I like the fact that you touched on that portal. And there was another one again, the pregnancy bag. I love the way you talk about it. Where you have that pregnancy bag, you want to give birth, you quickly grab that too, and you run. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, you and I know that as Africans, we don't. I'm gonna come to the next question. That we don't really have that bag readily like that. But thank God now things are getting better. We are beginning to really build a support system and those things around. However, there are two things that we call our support bag,
Mhm,
which is religion.
mhm,
Religion help us. Like anything that is too much for us, we'll go and pray. But you
mm.
mentioned something. You did not say a pregnant woman will run to the church and say, Pastor, I want to give birth. Come and help me bring this baby out. Right? So now when someone is mentally challenged,
Unless the
now
pastor is a midwife.
exactly. Now at this point, I will just have to do a full disclosure. I am a true Christian, and Sonia is a Christian. But this time, we're just trying to unpick certain things so that you can have a growth mindset and not a fixed mindset, right?
Mm,
So, as someone that is going to postnatal depression, whereby you can't even look at the baby because every time you look at this baby, you remember what you've been through. And then they say, go and pray, go and fast and pray, go and do this. And there are other things that people go through. We just say, you see that person as less of a Christian because they prayed, they fasted, and there has not been any changes. Or maybe not the way people want to see it. The person might be finding peace and being able to go on, but they are still struggling. And even a mention of going to see a counselor or a therapy for therapy is like, you are no longer born again. Because we know that can be a barrier. Can you please speak to this? And what's your take on it?
As you're talking, the scripture came into mind. Faith without works is dead.
Mm-hmm.
Faith without works is dead. Um, Now, I fully believe in calling a pastor and say, Pastor, pray for me. Pastor, stand with me in prayer about this and about that. And I've heard and I've seen many testimonies of when that has happened and how the situation has turned around.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you are in a church or, um, that is worth their salt and cares about its people, they will also tell you that there's nothing wrong in going to the hospital. There's nothing wrong in going to get a health check
Mm.
so that we know what we're praying about
Yes.
and we pray specifically. We don't want to be firing everywhere and not aiming for the target. So go and get that test done. Go and get that blood test done. Go and speak to the doctor. Find out what the real issue is and pray about it. Now, in the church I go to, the senior pastor says, wisdom. Somebody testified as a midnight prayer that everybody, most people connect to, called commanding the day. Somebody testified and said, "Oh, um, I've been praying about this, and it hadn't come yet. I think they had diabetes or something, and they continued taking their medication. And they said, I continued taking it until I was sure of my healing or until I was sure something happened." And do you know what the senior pastor said? Senior pastor said, "That is wisdom. Please, until
Mm-hmm.
you are sure that you've received your healing or you've gone to the doctor, please continue taking your medication.
Yes.
Continue doing what you've been told to do." That is wisdom. And I think a lot of the times, as Christians or from the Black community, that wisdom sometimes is lacking.
Mm.
If you're pregnant, you're about to give birth, the next thing is to go to the hospital. Is not to call
Yes.
pastor and be like, "Oh, pastor, I'm about to give birth. Are you going to help to deliver the baby?"
Mm-hmm.
Pastor should be like, "No, I'm not qualified to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I'll pray with you that the birth goes well. I'll pray with you." Oh, I can see
Yeah.
my hand. Is it because I'm doing it? I can see
I
my
don't
thumbs.
even know. I'm trying to check that. I hope I'm not
I
touching
think it's because
anything.
I'm putting my
It keeps
thumbs
giving
up.
you
Since you
thumbs up.
mentioned,
Even the computer is agreeing with you that you
it's
are.
agree with me.
Yes, pick it. Oh
So yeah,
dear.
so the pastor should be, like, okay, have you gone to the hospital? I'll pray along with you that the
Mm,
medical team, the midwives, that their hands are blessed, that the delivery goes well, you deliver like the Hebrew women, you have no, complications, things
mhm,
like that. There are processes and things in place. Another scripture says that, in the multitude of counselors, wage war.
mhm.
So the Bible is even, encouraging that you receive counsel.
Yeah.
Have your people around you to receive counsel from, to wage war in that time when
Yeah.
there's an issue, when there's a situation. I
Yes.
think that why there's such a stigma, why there was such a stigma is that people think that going to therapy or going to counseling to talk about their issues means that they have a lack of faith.
Hmm.
It means that they don't trust God, or it also means that they're just relying on science. It means that
Mm,
they're weak. And if they go and talk about, oh, this is going on, that's going on, then that means that they don't have faith and they're not true Christians. I believe that's one of the reasons. And also, from the African community as well, there are other so practices as well that is also a form of superstition. Talking to people about your issues, telling them what's going on in your household is also a superstitious belief that you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't
mm,
expose what's going on. You want to expose, you want to tell people what's going on. Okay, oh, you will see, kind of thing. Also, there's superstition that there are too many bad belly people in the world.
Hmm.
So let's keep things to ourselves and stuff like that. So I fully believe in calling the pastor and saying, Pastor, pray for me. And you know what? Some pastors are very good. They're very good at counseling. They're very good at, talking things through. And some pastors are not. Let's just face it. Some pastors are not. And we expect a lot from our pastors. We expect them to be firemen. We expect them to be doctors. We expect them to be lawyers. We expect them to be counselors. We expect them to be therapists. We expect them to be all sorts of manner of things under heaven. One person or one individual and their family. And it's, a lot of the pastors out there that are doing a great job is because they're relying on the wisdom of God. But also, let's not forget that they too themselves are men or women. They too are going through some of their own stuff.
Hmm.
But anyway, I don't want to go down there. So yeah, I don't know if that's answered your question.
No, yeah, I know. I like the part. I'm just gonna draw that part where you said people don't want to do therapy or don't want to do operations sometimes where you tell them they have to do some some operation because they'll feel like, oh, I'm not faithless. It
Mm,
means I don't have faith. That is a big one.
mm,
Is a big, big one. To me, that is being religious. That is
mm,
not being spiritual. Because I believe that wisdom comes from God.
yeah,
Are we not saying that the doctors, the lawyers, the accountants, the counselors, the psychologists, is it devil that not give them what they know?
absolutely not.
So you driving a car doesn't mean you don't have faith in your legs taking you from one destination to the other.
Mm,
What are we trying to say? It's convenience. So it's about that mindset, isn't it?
mm,
Because that's what I hear you say. The mindset that we have been programmed over years that if you do certain things, is lack of faith. Meanwhile, there are so many things that we do. We want to move from one country to another. We use the aeroplane. Did God make the aeroplane? God gave man wisdom,
yeah, yeah,
the idea to create that. Because God said, as long as you can imagine it, you believe it, you can bring it, you can make it. God gave that wisdom to the right brothers to make the aeroplane.
mm,
Even the doctors, do you know how fascinating I find that a doctor will cut a human being open, fix what they need to fix, stitch it back? To me, that's a miracle.
mm,
You know why I say that's a miracle? Can you and I do it? As in, you might be able to do some things. You are a nurse, but me, do you think I'll be able to cut a human being and then I'll not stitch it? I'll pass out even before I cut the person because I can't stand blood. Right? Do you know what I'm trying to say here? So depends. How do we? Is it really really? Are we short-sighted sometimes? Whereby to me, when you don't believe the wisdom that God has given to someone else to be able to assist you, isn't that lack of faith?
mm.
In a way, it's the lack of faith, isn't it? Because when
I
I
think it's,
pray,
yeah.
I've
Sorry,
prayed
go on.
about things. It's okay. I've prayed about things, Sonia, that things happen and I didn't have to go through a procedure. And I've also prayed sometimes I had to. And either way, I did not see God less. I cannot box him. I
Mm,
refuse to box him. It's bigger than that. It can show up in any way. But if you keep saying this is the only way to show up, he will be speaking, you will not hear.
yeah.
We can't box him. We mustn't box him. So if you're out there today, if your car is broke, you will go to the mechanic. If your teeth need fixing, you will go to the dentist. If you're having issues with your vision, you will go to the optician.
Mm,
If you have issues with your bones, you go to orthopedic doctors. If you have issues with your mental health or emotional well-being, go and see a counselor. Go and see a psychologist. Psychologist is more of the clinical side of things. A counselor will help you process your emotions and whatever you're going through. That's the difference between speaking with a friend A friend will be a little bit like they don't have all the tools. But when you speak with the right professional, they will be able to help you unpick things in unbiased way with
Mm,
unconditional eyes. They don't unconditional judgment. I mean, they can't judge you. They will
mm,
help you unravel things and you will leave there with clarity. Sometimes you realize they are making a mountain out of a molehill. And sometimes you realize that maybe there are certain things that you just need to change. Or perspective, you have a broader perspective. So please, we are all faith people, but please let's learn to seek support and help from the right people. Even in the Bible, we had the prophetess, we had the kings, we had people who were also wives as well. So
mm.
different people in the Bible had their role. It has not changed. It's still the same. They were. You cannot go to a prophetess. It's only Deborah that I know went to war, and maybe Gideon went to war. And okay, some judges in the Bible
Yeah.
went to war with the warriors. However, those people cannot become a seer just because you're a warrior. You still need to go back to the judges to be
Mm.
able, you need to go back to the prophets to be able to see those things. We all have our role. We need to learn to respect each other's role without making everything about religion. Sonia, I will yield the mic to you if you wanted to add anything.
Um, I've actually forgotten what I wanted to add. But I think, you know, one of the things that's really important is you think about your why. You know, why should you go and see a counselor? Why should you go and see a therapist? Sonia's very rightly, differentiated between counselor and the clinical side of things, which is one of the things that I wanted us to touch on. But I think it's very important to also think about, why. Why is it important for you to do that? Why is it important for you to have those things in your arsenal, in your emergency toolkit for the time that you need it? For me personally, as I get older, I realize that there's no substitute for looking after yourself.
Hmm.
There's no substitute for looking after yourself mentally and physically, because you have one body, you have one mind. And if you want to live to a good old age, you need to take care of it. What you put inside is what you're going to get out. The same way that, what you put into your work when you go into work in your workplace is what you're going to get out. If you're somebody that's naturally brilliant, you may be able to just coast for a while. You may be able to just glide, do, minimal and get away with it for a while. But eventually, when the rubber hits the road, your work will show itself. So
Yes.
it's the same way that mentally, what you put in is what you get out. If you spend a lot of time, in an environment that doesn't stimulate you mentally, one, doesn't encourage you mentally, two, you don't find fulfillment in it, three, um, and you don't have an outlet. I think when we're talking about mental health, it's very important to also discuss about an outlet. What is your outlet? What do you do when difficult situation arises? Even before then, how do you look after yourself? You need
Hmm.
to think about it. If you are busy being a superwoman all the time, or a superman, super dad, you don't look after yourself, you don't have a circle of friends or trusted advisors that you release, things to every once in a while, or you don't have a counselor that you can go to that's trusted, then you're not putting things in your mental health bank, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, so that's one. Two, you have a family, you have children. The giants that you don't conquer today, you're gonna pass it on to your kids.
Yes.
The giants you don't conquer today, you're gonna pass it on to your children.
Hmm.
That's called inheritance. Inheritance is not just financially.
Yes.
Inheritance is not just materialistic things. Inheritance is
Hmm.
not just what you say. Again, there's a thing that the British say, baby see, baby do.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's not baby here, baby do. It's what baby sees that baby will do. You might be saying to your child, no, don't do that. Don't do that. It's bad. And say you're swearing, but you're telling them not to swear. They
Hmm.
hear you swearing, they will swear. Oh.
That's right.
because that's what they learn by observing. So if you as a parent, talking to the parents out there, if you as a parent don't have um your emotional mental health well-being in an optimum place, or you don't have those toolkits, you're going to hand it down to your kids,
Yes.
and then it's going to be up to them what they do with that.
Mm.
So sometimes some parents will be like, wow, why is this child like this? Why is this child like that? But actually, if you sit down and think about it, why they like that, they've observed you.
Yeah.
They've observed you. They've observed you. And I know one of the most painful things for a parent is to see that the mistakes that you've made as a parent, you see your children making that mistake, and it's almost like
Mm.
you just want to shake it out of them and be like, kind of thing. So please, mental health is not just for you, but it's also for the generation that you're raising, for
Mm.
the next leaders of tomorrow.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Thank you so much, Sonia. You said a good man leaves inheritance for the children's children.
Mm,
So remember, inheritance is not only money. Please do not leave trauma inheritance for your children's children. Do not leave mental health challenges and issues for your children's children. They will not thank you for it.
mm,
They will not thank you for it. Let's be guided, with the things I've just been exposed to. Sometimes, when you just feel like you have all the powers to just change and just tell everybody, wake up. This mental health is real. When you see a child cutting his or herself,
mm,
do you know how painful it is? When you see someone coming to you, they don't just have suicide ideation, they've actually tried. Do you know how painful it is? And when someone telling you the only reason they are still holding on because they're not in a state of hopelessness is because of their child. They don't want to put their child through that.
mm,
But they are in constant pain. Do you know what it feels like when you ask teenagers, if you are in deep trouble today, who do you talk to? They don't
mm,
call their mom as number one. They don't call their dad as number one or number two. They call maybe their own peers.
mm.
When people tell you they are going through things, it's okay not to be okay. We need to start believing people. Don't take this as surface level. Stop assuming. And we need to stop trivializing people's mental health and emotional well being and stop tagging it with things like dramatic, attention seeking, pity party. Nobody in a right state of mind would want to do any of that.
Yeah. As you're talking, I'm just reminded that one of the big major issues we go through as, immigrants or ethnic minorities in the West is the inability to communicate, the inability to really say what's going on or to communicate clearly.
Mm,
Um, and this is because a lot of the times it's a case of, you know, don't say, maybe parents, my light has gone off, so I'm trying to put it back on.
It's okay. It doesn't make any difference.
Okay.
It's
Um,
just okay.
my, parents don't know how to, I keep saying parents, I don't know who's listening, who's listening out there, but a lot of the things that adults go through now comes through the home, comes through their
Mm,
foundation. It comes through
mm-hmm.
that nurturing process.
Yeah.
Psychology speaks about nature versus nurture.
Mm-hmm.
How does an individual turn out? Is it due to nature, just how they were born, or is it due to
Mm-hmm.
nurture, their environment, their parenthood, their training, their background,
Mm,
yada yada yada. So, um, yeah, a lot of us came through the environment of, parents not being able to speak about emotional things that
yeah.
are painful, not being able to verbalize it, not being able to voice it out.
Yeah.
And unless again, that child somehow finds themselves in an environment, or they recognize that and they purposely do the opposite, it's going to be very hard for that child to be able to verbalize
Mm.
and communicate.
Yeah.
And when an individual is not able to communicate the pain, the hurt that
Mm-hmm.
they're going through, it is then translated into something else. Sonia, at the beginning, you said that some people go through things, they don't realize exactly what it is. And somebody else will just come and maybe kind of tap into that trauma or that pain. And all of a sudden, they just burst out and react. And the other person's like, wow, okay, you're overreacting. What's that about? Okay,
Mm.
all right, staying away from you. You've got issues, weirdo. And the person that's overreacted probably doesn't want to overreact, didn't want to overreact. They didn't realize, but then they don't know what the root is. I always like to get to the root of things. When I'm speaking to somebody, sometimes even my husband, we're having disagreement or something, and I'm like, okay, you're upset, but why are you upset? What
Mm.
is the root issue? Because it's not. It's not. This is not the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Because from where I'm standing, what is the root of it? Can you explain that to me? It's like, oh, this woman, I've started again. I guess I have a background in psychology. I'm sorry, that's who you married. But what is the root of it? Because if we deal with the root, then we deal with the cause.
Absolutely.
If we're just dealing with, oh, it's because the reaction, then we're just dealing with the fruit, we're not dealing with the root. It's going to
Yes.
manifest itself in another way. It's going to
Mm.
manifest itself, in another situation. So, but that communication is so important. It's so
Yes.
key. Being able to communicate where you hurt, where you're in pain, where you're going through trauma, where you need help. Otherwise, if you bottle and keep it in, it manifests itself in different situations, either in a physical illness, dis-ease, what Sonia talked about. When you break that word down, is a dis and an ease. So you
Mm-hmm.
were at ease before, but suddenly there's something wrong with your ease. It's now dis-ease, means there's something wrong in your
Mm-hmm.
body. And a lot of the times, yeah, medicine will treat the physical cause, but if the mental cause is still there, it's going to manifest itself in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
There was one story, as a testimony, actually, somebody was sharing, I think it was, yeah, I can't remember exactly. It was talking about a woman who had come for prayer, and you know, God revealed to the pastor or whoever was praying for them that you need to go and forgive your husband, something like that.
Mm.
You need to go
Mm.
and forgive your husband. Forgive your husband. That's the reason why. And this woman had an illness. I'm not gonna mention what it is, but had an illness, but it was revealed that forgive your husband. The woman was like, no, he did this to me, he did that, he did this. I will never forgive, never. Da, 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 da. Unfortunately, um, we don't have the best story as to how that ended. But that unforgiveness was created a wound and created a physical illness. And that she needed to just let go for her sake, for
Yes.
herself, but she couldn't. Then there was another testimony where somebody did have unforgiveness about something and they forgave, and they got healing in their physical body through that. Yes, medicine is there. Yes, science is there. Yes, continue taking the medication. But the root cause as to why that physical illness came about was through a mental health issue of unforgiveness or this, that, on the other. It's obviously a lot more complicated than that. But if you simplify it down, we can't look at mental illness as something that's just yadi da. Oh, it's airy fairy. It's up there, and it's all like woohoo. It's only for people who just like to talk a lot. All these English people, they just talk. They just like to talk. They like to label everything. Nobody's saying that you should label yourself or agree with the labeling of society. But what we're saying is, if there is an issue, find the root cause, find somebody that you can talk to help you get to the root of it. Counseling is it's a short-term form of being able to speak. So counseling, you call it talking therapy, where you speak and the counselor helps you to find a solution. They're not going to give you the solution, but they will help you to find the solution for yourself. So then you don't feel that you're now back in the driving seat of your life. Because a lot of mental health issues comes from the feeling of not being in control. Sometimes there's a disassociation between mentally how you're feeling and physically how you're feeling. Mentally, how you're feeling in an environment and what the environment is. You can have somebody who's very popular, gorgeous, beautiful, handsome, whatever, center of attention, and you think, wow, they've got their life going on. But do you know that some of them, a lot of them mentally, they're that mental space in a completely different mental space. That's a disassociation between reality and,
Absolutely, Sonia.
you know, so yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love this last part. We're going to wrap it up now. Do you know we've been here for over 1 hour now, 6 minutes past? I
Wow.
actually thought this would be 45 minutes. I think this is the
Really?
long. This is the longest we spoke because it's something I'm so passionate about. Do you know
Mm,
what? I'm a firm believer of if we can prevent it, why not?
mm,
Why wait until it's spoiled, until it's too late
mm.
before
It's
you
like
now start calling
maintenance, isn't it?
everybody? Maintenance is very
Maintenance.
important.
It's the
I
same
love
way
the
you
fact,
maintain an aircraft, making sure that it doesn't spoil. You
yes,
take it in for regular checks, you take it in for regular oiling, engineers look at it, da 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 da. Yeah.
I love the fact that you talk about communication, and I don't want to recap everything you said, but there were key things that stood out for me there. You know, the difference between speaking with a counselor and your friend is oftentimes your friend listens to respond.
Mm,
A counselor will always listen to understand. That's the difference. They will listen to understand. And like Sonia said, they will help you untie the knots and then you have clarity. But you still have to do the work.
yeah.
But the thing is, the fact that you have a fabric doesn't mean you have a dress. You
True.
still need to find a fashion designer to make it for you.
Mm,
And sometimes some designers are very good at designing, but they don't know how to use the machine. You see the irony of life. The fact that you have the problem, you being able to discuss it with a professional counselor, will they help you unravel it? Because they understand, they didn't judge you. They'll help you to see an overview.
mm.
And thank you so much for bringing in that forgiveness. I got an email. I worked with a man a year ago, and I received an email from him last month. I was just crying, not tears of sadness, but of joy. And then he told me, he said, I just thought about you, and I just wanted to thank you once again for giving me my life back.
Wow.
He said, those sessions we had, I can't begin to tell you what I'm not doing with my life. He mentioned the things he's not doing, knowing very well that I was aware that he wasn't able to do those things when he came. And do you know what was the key that opened the padlock of
Mm,
the mental health issues? Forgiveness.
wow.
Forgiveness. I showed my manager that email. I was like, oh, wow, Sonia, well done. You don't know how someone is able to get their life back. He had so much unforgiveness. And then when you tell people, forgive, when you said that woman could do it, do you know some people don't know how to forgive?
No.
He told me, he said, I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to forgive. We then go through the forgiveness process. And then he realized that the forgiveness is not for the other person,
It's
it's
fine.
actually for him.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What you expect other people to gift you, you need to be able to gift it to yourself.
Mm,
You cannot afford a Louis Vuitton bag. You want your parents or your husband or your wife to be able to buy it for you. Ah, I don't know what to call you. You cannot give yourself forgiveness. You can't
mm,
forgive yourself that this thing happened, but I felt so bad. But I let go. I'm not responsible for that thing. It was
mm,
not my fault. It was not because of what I did. I'm going to let go. My body deserves freedom. I need to see this from a different perspective. That it has happened, and I
mm,
choose. I take my power back. I love that part where you said the power is taking the control. But this time you're choosing that no, I'm going to be on the driver's side of my seat back. I choose, realizing that you have a choice. I choose to let go of what the person has done, knowing that I can recreate the life that I want. I don't want to be remembering those things and holding grudges anymore.
And
I
you know
choose
that
to be.
forgiveness is actually powerful because some people think that forgiving others is a sign of weakness, but actually it's a sign of strength.
Yes.
It's an absolute sign of strength. When you can forgive, you are showing that you are stronger than the situation.
And you are bigger than the situation.
Yeah. And that you actually care about yourself. Because
Yes.
there's a saying that goes that unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer.
How?
You sometimes people think, oh, if I forgive that person, that means they get away with it. They're getting away with it scot-free, and I'm just here still dealing with the situation. You don't know what's going to happen in that person's life.
Yes.
And actually, you can't control unless you are a witch, you can't control what happens in that person's life. Even if you wish them ill or what, you still can't control their life. The
Mm.
best thing you can do is you have control over yourself. That forgiveness is your power. That forgiveness is your power. And also, for I would say, for children who are second generation immigrants, your parents came here, they made some mistakes, and you're here and you've like, oh, my mom didn't do this, my mom didn't do that, my dad didn't do, they didn't give me this and they give me, please forgive them, because they couldn't give what they didn't have and they didn't know that they didn't have it. Please forgive them and let it go, so that you can have your freedom and you can say to yourself, okay, I've learned, when my children come or my children are here, I'll do things differently, but I'll forgive my mom and I'll forgive my dad. They didn't know any better. And even if they did and they didn't do any better, I still let them go anyway, so that I can have my freedom and I can have my life.
Absolutely. Forgiveness is a gift to yourself. Forgiveness is you showing that you are prioritizing you
Mm,
over that issue.
yeah.
You're prioritizing you over that hurt. You're prioritizing you over that situation. You are choosing you. You're
Mm,
choosing your mental health and your well being.
yeah.
And you're also choosing that you are in control, that that person is not the one with the remote of your life telling you be
Absolutely.
angry, anger, be sad, and then you go
Right.
off again.
Yeah.
Is you taking back your control that
Yeah.
I'm in charge. I can be happy and I let go because I am better and bigger than that. That's
Mm,
what forgiveness is all about. And when he did it, this man was not a young man. He was
wow.
not a young man. He was an older person and is living his life again. I wish he knows how much. I replied to him, I said, thank you so, so much. You didn't have to. The
Mm,
job was done. But he was so, he may have just remembered me. I don't know. But he chose to send that message. And that was just so beautiful.
that's incredible.
Unforgiveness was just holding him since. When he decided and he saw the perspective of what forgiveness was, he chose to give it to himself.
Yeah.
And he liberated himself. He opened that bondage, that padlock,
Wow.
and he was free, flew like a bird, and he's flying all over ever since. Right, Sonia.
Congratulations. That's an
Thank you.
incredible feedback.
Oh, you don't know. Thank you so much. I don't know. We've covered and uncovered, and there are so many topics that have just arisen from this. Like, for example, the exploring resilience. Resilience is not get on with it and forget about what happened. I think I need to explore that topic.
Uh,
Crying is not weakness, it's a strength. That's another topic. So, from this discussion, so many other topics that need to be unpicked has come up. So,
mm,
thank you for that. Thank you for your time. Thank you
thank
for
you
your
so
deep
much.
insight. And I just hope it bless, even if it's just one person, one person. We don't know how many people that one person could touch after
Mm,
listening to this. So,
mm.
please share with people and subscribe so that when we drop more videos, you'll get notified of it. Thank you so so much, Sonia. Please, what is your final word on this topic?
Wow. I'm not even sure how to summarize it, but thank you for giving me the opportunity to come and speak and to come and share. Um, I would say value yourself, value your life, value your mental health, and change the way you think about mental health. If you're listening out there and you think, oh, mental health, oh please, and you roll your eyes and think, I'm fine. Challenge your thoughts and actually surprise yourself. Dare yourself to go for counseling and come back and let us know if you remain the same. Why live in black and white if you can live in color? Why choose to live in black and white if you can live in color? Full color is what I would say. Um, yeah, I've said so much already. I'm mindful of the time. I can go on, but yeah, this is a topic that's close to my heart as well. And I definitely, if you need somebody to talk to, obviously, Abison is here. One of the things that holds our community back is maybe not having people that look like them, that's their color, or understand the culture.
Yes.
But times are changing. There's a lot more Black coaches there now, African coaches, African therapists. So if you need a referral, if maybe you're Abia Sonia's friend and you think, oh no, she's too close to me, and I feel somehow she can definitely give you referrals. If you need a consultation, I'm sure she has, opportunities to give you a consultation to dip your toe in, see what it's like, see if she's somebody that you can work with. Definitely say just have a taste of it.
Thank you so much, Sonia. Thank you so, so much for your time. Like I would say, even if you are financially stable, you are physically strong, if your mental health is even 10% bruised, you are not 100% physically well.
Hmm.
We need to be awesome and holistically awesome. That means our physical, our mental, our emotional well being. And please, let's look after it. If you like, you have 50 years plan, goals. If your mental health is challenged, you will not be able to execute it.
Mm.
So let's prioritize it. Let's look out for one another. Let's not trivialize and disenfranchise people's um, talk when they're talking. We need to pay attention to the body language, to the unspoken word. Someone once told me I was in the midst of people, but I was still feeling very alone. That was deep because nobody was listening. We're both probably carried away with the happiness of life. That friend that is always checking on everybody, but nobody check on.
The strong
That
one.
one that is the light, yes, that is the light of the party. That one that everybody run through when they have a problem. That one is a human being as well,
Yeah.
and they need help. They don't have to ask you. Just look after them in your way. If all of us realize that we need to look after one another, we'll see things even before it happens.
Absolutely.
Please, let's look after one another. It's so, so important. Thank you once again, Sonia. And I'm
Thank
going
you. Had so much
to
fun. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. Subscribe, share with people, and comment. I just really want to know, share with us what you think about this. And if you've got
Mm.
any topic close to your heart, because we're going to be exploring a lot of these counseling and coaching areas, to liberate more people. If you've got any topic close to your heart that you want us to explore, look for a guest for, please just drop it in the comment section. I'll do our best to meet your need. Thank you once again and have a great day. I remain your host, Abia Sonia. Thank you for watching my diaspora journey. Bye for now.
Bye.